Howdy, Hacksters! I'm going to be off next week, but I thought before I sign off, I would give just do a quick CAD computer-aided design 3D modeling tutorial, just like a casual session where I've got this, I did a video a while back. Let me see if I can find it, but here's the thing I'm talking about. SparkFun LiPo Charger Basic. We did a video on this. Let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna show you my face again for a second while I look this up. Here we go. Power prototyping. Found it. All right. So this video is all about power in various ways that you can power your own projects. A few months ago, and we talked about some of my favorite tools for this, including this SparkFun LiPo charger and a step-up converter from 3.7 to 5 volts and things like that. And I showed you some little doodads that I've put together in order to be able to charge and power my projects. The trouble with this is that it looks like this. That's not very practical. It's very useful, but it's not practical the way that it currently is. And what I wanted to do is put together a base, a weighted base, that will help me actually use this in real life and not have it just be hanging out, you know, especially with a charging thing where there's like exposed wires. I don't really want that to be just banging around on my desk. So I thought it's time to put together a weighted charger base for this. And there's a couple of design constraints. I've already been drawing it up on this notebook here. I think there's some interesting stuff. If you're new to CAD and you want to know how to go about it, maybe there'll be some tips in here. So first up, I've been diagramming very sort of dirtily these, how I want the thing to be. So I want there to be a tray on top, and I want there to be a cutout in that tray for the wires to go through from the batteries. So they'll sit in this tray on top, and then this will be on the side of the unit, and the wires will be able to go into here and stuff. Quick overview of this module. You've got micro USB with 5 volts going in to charge the batteries, which will be attached to here. This is a normal JST connector, but I've cut off the top part of it because these things are murder on your fingernails. They're just such a huge pain to get them apart. And so by cutting off of the top part, it still fits really snugly. And I still have to pull on it, but it doesn't, it's just not as much of an extreme pain to get it off. And I also attached these little jumper wires to these pre-existing through holes, because sometimes there are different sizes of JST connectors, and I still want to be able to sort of hook those up informally, but have it in a stable holder so that it's not going to, you know, flop around all over the place and cause problems. So those are sort of the design constraints that I have. So then, how you make it a weighted base is very easy. You just have a tray in the bottom where you put a bunch of loose change, so pennies usually. So I want to have an extra little part of a tray down here at the bottom to hold a bunch of pennies. And maybe I'll make this a hexagon. Why not? Honestly, it won't be that much harder. It still has plenty of flat edges to mount this charger on, and it'll be fun. I'll show you how to do all of this in Onshape, which is an online browser-based CAD tool, which I love. I like having all my designs in a central area where I'm not going to lose them. I can download them easily from any computer without installing anything extra. It's a godsend, especially when my laptop got stolen last year. It was very sad, but I still had all of my designs and stuff because they were in the browser, and I didn't have to do any extra setup. It works cross-platform, super great. And before we start as well, I want to show you, this is a very simple model that I CAD'd up years and years ago as a sort of signet ring, just because I got a new 3D printer recently, which I love, the Creality CR10S Pro V2. Thank you to my friend Mohib for the recommendation. But also they have a new one out. It's a collaboration with Naomi Wu that prints diagonally. It's incredible. But I'm still happy with my choice. Anyway, there's a ton of different filament types that you can choose from. These are just ones that I've been printing with in the last month or so, and including this one, which I think will be interesting for you if you're doing any wearable tech thing, is because it's flexible. Look at that. So this is from the M3D company. It is called 3D Tough Ink. But there are plenty of other ones like Ninja Flex and stuff that have been around for ages. Look, I made this planter out of it. It's squeezy. Just if you need some extra flex in your projects. In this case, I don't, so I'll probably make it out of something more neutral. Maybe this cherry red I've been playing with. Yeah, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new document in Onshape. I'm going to use this and basically just sort of eyeball how big I want things to be, because this is a pretty small component and these are a variable size. There's nothing really tightly constrained about the sizing here, which is nice. It's a very forgiving project, so I don't have to get too tight with the tolerances. But before I jump into that, I'm going to iterate on this drawing a couple more times just to get it to a sort of more stable state. So let's see, I want it to be a hexagon. And I'm going to have the charger mounted on one side. I want this to be easy for me to connect the wires through. So there's going to be a cutout here. Make this look like a tray. And the micro USB thing is going to shove off to the side. Maybe I should put that on this side, actually. But I want to be able to see the little charging LED. There's a little charging LED that's visible. So then the batteries will go up here. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of cable ugliness going off to the side for the fashion choice of having it be a hexagon. I could also mount it in a different direction, maybe on the, like, vertically on the side. But that would also, you know, unless you have a really flexible cable or one of the side ones, 90-degree ones, it wouldn't look very good. I'm fine with it going off in a random direction. Okay, so then I'm going to make it extra tall. It's going to be about twice as tall as the actual tray area. And I'm going to have a slot on the back side where I can put the coins in. And it's going to be on back. And it's going to be a hollow area in here. Oh, you know what? This is an interesting one, actually, because I've done hollow areas before, and this is going to need support material to be printed. And if you have a hollow area inside, then it's really hard to get that support material out. So, I wonder if there's a better way to do this. Maybe... Let's see. What if I had two separate trays and they just sort of mount together? That could be kind of obnoxious. What's a good latching mechanism? I'll think about it while I start CADing this up. But I think this is a good starting point. I'm not going to have a big empty hollow in the middle that I can't get the support material out. That's a terrible idea. I could have the interior of the tray look like this, on sort of a slant, and have the coins over here. And then the battery like here, and have the wires go like this in a cutout. And then, you know, this would be very deep on this side because it would kind of slant, right? And then shallow on that end. I would put the coins in over here, have the slot. And then I might be able to get away with an angle that wouldn't require support material. I think that's the way to go. There's nothing in the law that says, you know, this has to be evenly deep all around, or that the weight has to be evenly distributed. As long as there's enough pennies in there, it'll stay put on the desk. It's very important for me that things be able to stay put on the desk, because I am constantly moving stuff around and sort of thwacking it with my flailing arms and stuff, and so it has to be able to stay in place. So let's see, I'll put that, actually the cutout wants to go over here in the corner because of the way this is going to be mounted. And then it'll get plugged in like this. Maybe the cutout should go over here. Goes like that. That'll be good enough. And then we have the cable coming off here. Okay, we're going to start with that. We're going to try and do some sort of slanty coin holder on the side. And then, yeah, it'll sort of there. Oh, we could even write something here or draw something here. Like, I don't know, maybe a happy face. We'll get there. Someone says, you should try to stream over Instagram and Reddit too. Actually, Actually, I am interested in that. Oh, thank you. Happy holidays, Tariq. I saw your message, but I did not get to respond to it yet. But I will. All right, so opening up my unshaped documents, I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to call this LiPo base. That should be pretty obvious. So what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to orient it like this and make a sketch and create a hexagon. So like yay big. It doesn't have to be the right dimensions because we're going to figure that out right now. I'm going to take a look at these things. And I think that I want my thing to be about this wide, given this size of battery and the fact that it needs to have some space for charging things. Assuming that the points are on the sides. Is that what I did in the drawing? Points are on the sides? Yeah. Assuming that the points are on the sides, I'm going to have it be this wide. Yeah. So that's about 100 millimeters. Oh no, that's about 95 millimeters. Let's make it 90. Yeah, that'll be a comfortable size. So 90 millimeters across. I like to work in millimeters because it's easier for me to think in terms of like 1 or 2 millimeters versus like, you know, a couple of 16ths of an inch. That's really hard for me to wrap my brain around, but millimeters are really friendly when I'm doing small stuff. So 90 millimeters I think will be a nice diameter, I guess, for this. Maybe there's a different word you use with hexagons, but so I'm going to use this dimension tool. You can also hit D, and what happens if I just try to dimension this whole thing? Nothing. Well then, I will dimension it this way. Just type in 90. You can select which units you're using. I think under here, yeah, workspace units. I've chosen millimeters. You can choose the number of decimal places, default angle unit. Interesting. Radians? Huh. Default mass unit is grams, etc. But I like to stick with this. You can make things visible and invisible, but I find that these are pretty helpful. But it's kind of cool when you're trying to show off a drawing of something that you just made. Let's go back into this sketch. So right now I've got this hexagon. I'm just right-clicking to do this orbit view. And do I actually need to do anything now before I start before I start to extrude things? I think not. I'm kind of curious about how I'm going to manage that diagonal line there. I think I'm going to do it in a weird way. Let's see. There's a couple of tools that I have available at my disposal, including the shell tool, which enables me to take a solid and turn it into a hollow object. I might make use of that. I think I know how I will do it. I'm going to first extrude this downwards. I'm going to go without, I'm not going to do the tilty thing I talked about. I think that's going to be too complex for right now. But I'm going to extrude it down. So negative, how tall do I want this to be? Let's figure that out next. So assuming this is going to go on the side, I think the top needs to be maybe, say, 20 millimeters deep. Sorry, my ruler is a little bit hard to see because it's reflective. Yeah, the top tray can be 20 millimeters deep. And then the bottom could also be 20 millimeters deep. That sounds good. So I'm going to say negative 20 for this to make the bottom first. And what I'm going to do here is, notice how the sketch is on top of here? I'm going to end up extruding from both sides, but doing separate things with them. So that sketch remains available and open on the top there. I can use that same polygon again. And this is just going to be the base. Oh, you know what? I'm going to extrude it negative 10. This is going to be really weird. This is a really weird technique that I'm just making up as I go. But I'm going to shell this face. let's see if I can orient it in a good way. So if we're looking at the top, I want this to be the back. So I'm going to take this, and I get to tell it how thick to make the shell. I'm going to make it, say, oh, you know what? This will not be the right way to do this, will it? I'm going to do this a different way. Okay, so we're going to extrude it down 20 millimeters. What I'm going for is to have a big hollow space with an open slot. But that might not be the best way. If I had done more of the design... I really wanted to do this, sort of showing you the design thinking along the way. But of course that means that there's things that I'm still thinking through. So I'm just gonna go ahead and shell this to 2 millimeters. And there's gonna be support material in there, which is gonna be a bit of a pain. But I think if I give myself enough space to pull it out, that'll be fine. And the next thing I'm gonna do is make another sketch on this face. And I'm going to just create a rectangle from the middle of that line to there. And what I'm going to do here is extrude that back 2 millimeters so that it goes into there. Oh no, I want you to do the whole thing. So everything I've selected here gets extruded back, and that makes our little gate. So now we have a hollow area with a slot. But I am still annoyed that I'll have to pull out all that support material. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll have a flash of insight in the middle of this. So now we're going to extrude the top. I'm going to go back into that sketch. And do I want to extrude another thing and then make it a shell? That might be the way, actually. Maybe I can just extrude this whole top up. Another 20 mil. 25. Why not? 20. What happens if I shell this when it already has stuff on the bottom? Oh, great! It does not need to be 2.5 millimeters, honestly, or even 2. It can be 1.5. That's fine. It's not going to be under any great duress. Cool. And let's do that with the bottom part as well. I can go back into previous things I've already extruded and shelled and stuff, and I'm going to make that one 1.5 millimeters as well. Another thing that I can do is, where's my variable thing? There's an option to make variables. Here we go. And I'm going to make this called shell and set it to 1.5 millimeters. If I put this up at the start of the whole project, so this on the left here is kind of a timeline, and you can see that, like, if I make this part active, everything else after it vanishes. If I make this part active, everything after that vanishes. So you can only see what you're affecting now, but changes that you make here will affect the entire model down the road. So what I'm going to do here is use that variable I just created, shell, and it's going to stay 1.5 millimeters thick. But if I change the value of shell later on, it'll update that as well. So I'm going to do that same thing here. Hashtag shell, and now those will like auto update if I change that variable. Let's make it 5 millimeters. Yeah, see? So now we have a simple tray at the top, and we have a simple coin holder at the bottom with a space that's going to be a pain in the butt to get support material out of. I know there's got to be better ways to do that, but we'll get to that later. And man, I could just make that a slant somehow, I'm sure. You know, I think I have a way to do it, but I'll finish modeling this for now. No, I think I'd have to start over again. It won't take too long though. So we've done this way to start with. Now I'm going to try a new way and just make a new one. Let's see. LiPo base 2. I'm going to use a completely different strategy this time. Top, make our same polygon. I guess it's not completely different. I decided to do the points on the sides and dimension it. You can just hit the hotkey D to do that. I decided that was going to be 90. And now Okay, so my nefarious plan here is to extrude the whole way. So I'm going to extrude, say, 45 millimeters. Okay, and now I'm going to... What was the plan here? Oh no, I want it to be... I'm going to extrude it 20... Yeah, 25. And then I'm going to make a new sketch here on the front side, and I'm going to create a triangle. Starting from here, down to, say, there, and up to here, and up to there. Oh, but you know what? It can't quite be that drastic, can it? No, it can, because I'm not going to worry about that later. I'm going to create walls separately. So I'm going to take this triangle, and I'm going to extrude it, but select the remove option, and I'm going to say remove 90 millimeters or whatever, all the way. Okay, so now I have this ramp. And what I think is that maybe the angle of this ramp is going to be such that it'll be able to print without support material. That's the goal. Oh, you know what though? I still have this flat part over here. That's still a problem. Let's try changing our sketch. And as we change our sketch, it will change our final model. And I've got some correspondences here. You saw when I click on this, it shows a little line intersecting icon, and those are constraints that have been put on it by it snapping to things when I created the line in the first place. But I can do this and say, what if I make it like this? That's too steep of an angle though. But if I move this over, say to there, and have it go straight to the bottom, I might be able to print that without support. No guarantees, but here's the idea. Would that even work? And then I'm going to select this new triangle for that. Oh, no. Stop using those. Start using this. What's your problem with removing all of that, my friend? Merge with all. It doesn't like it for some reason. That's actually quite surprising. Supposing we were to change my sketch. Stop being attached to those things. There we go. This is coming out more quick and dirty than I wanted, so I think I'm going to switch back to my previous version of doing this. But this was fun to play with. Now, why is the extrude not taking the whole thing out? There we go. Now let's think for a second. Could I do this? There's no point in having that big triangle there. Unless I put the charger on top here. That could be cool. Let's run with that for a second. I think it would be a little ugly, but we can do it anyway. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the original sketch and create a slightly smaller polygon. Uh-oh. There we go. And I'm going to dimension that one as well so that it's like 2 millimeters smaller, or 1.5 millimeters. These two walls, 1.5 millimeters apart. And probably that's going to affect my first extrude, and everything's going to yell at me. We'll see in a second. Yep, okay. And I want you to do that first extrude. I want you to extrude all of it. Okay, now we're back to where we were, but now I'm going to hide this part that has been created and show my sketch. And I'm going to re-extrude this outer hexagon, to be taller. And it's going to end up as walls. So now I can show this. I just needed to hide it so that I could select the right things. There we go. Okay, cool. Magic. So that's 25 millimeters tall. That seems like plenty. So now we have this, which is a tray that looks like it might print without support, but I really don't trust that angle. And I could put a little slot in here for where you put the pennies. And then this would be filled with support material over here. Or I could even make it hollow from the bottom. What if I made this another shell? Or made a triangle on it that I could sink the charger into, and then you could still see the light from the top, but it would be kind of hidden. Let's do that really quick and run with it. So I'm going to create a sketch on the top here. I want to make a little triangle that will sort of fit neatly in this space. And in fact, I'm going to use my line tool to come down to here. And then I'm going to mirror this to make sure that it looks nice. So the mirror line is this axis here. We're picking these two lines to mirror, and now we have a little triangle that looks nice. And we can even get special with it and make sure that these two lines are 1.5 millimeters apart. Oh no, don't do that. And okay, yes, do that. And then also, I want these two 1.5 millimeters apart. There we go. All right, cool. So now that's the same thickness as the other walls. Again, I could put a variable in here to make it more consistent, but I think 1.5 is really a reasonable amount for walls. I think the rest of this was extruded 25 millimeters, so I'm going to do it with 23. Remove 23 millimeters to give it a nice 2 millimeter shell on the bottom. And now we have this. So now I'm going to place a cutout for the micro USB cable. I'm going to put that over on this face so that it's kind of in the back, a little bit hidden. I want it to be pretty big. Well, micro USB cables always have sort of variable size heads, so maybe I'll just make a slot for the cable to go through. I'm going to do a sketch on this face. Do a little rectangle action. Make it yay big. How's that looking? Your typical micro USB cable is, let's see. About 5 millimeters. So let's make it like 8 or so that it's very comfortable. We'll make an 8 millimeter wide slot here. What is your source for the LiPo packs? I found my sources to be more expensive than I expected, $10 or so for a 500 milliamp size. To be honest, I usually just use Adafruit or SparkFun. I look around for what they've got. Or also, I've just gotten these with various like con badges and things in the past. A lot of these that are kicking around, I'm honestly not sure where they came from, but I find the different sizes to be useful. Adafruit and SparkFun are both pretty good though. And you can check out newarc.com for some other ones. Lots of different resources. ¿Cuál es tu nombre, Hackster Blue? My name's Alex, thank you. So we're going to extrude this rectangle back. Remove it. Say 2 millimeters. You could also just say, there's ways to say how far it goes depending on like what the next face is in the object, but I like to be a little bit more absolute about it and just say like 2 millimeters. These absolute units. Absolute units, lol. Sorry. I'm going to dimension this to make sure that it is the size I wanted actually, because I went to that trouble of measuring. 10 millimeters. Of course, this is a little bit different on a diagonal face, but I think it'll be good. Okay, so 10 millimeters. That looks like enough for a little micro USB cable to get through. And then over here, I'm going to put a little slot for the battery cables to go through. on this face. Put a sketch there. Boop. There's all kinds of different approaches to CAD, and mine is different from other people's, obviously. So don't take this as like the only way to do this. I often use sort of weird techniques that I've garnered over the years. And I haven't really taken like an actual, 2 millimeters. Sometimes I put negative values because if you're extruding and you want something to go backwards from where the sketch is, then then using a negative makes sense. You know what? I should make this sketch actually go to a sensible place. I'm gonna mate it to the bottom there or something. Can I make these two touch? Equal. No, but what I can do is stop highlighting. What I can do is I can put a point on this line at the midpoint, and then I can tell it, select that point and this line, and tell it to make them coincident. Whee! There we go. Cool. Now, why is that sunk into the ground? I don't like that at all. That's actually really weird. Oh, it's because... Okay. I don't know why it's sunk into the ground. Oh, the top over here is higher. So when I extruded this area, I just sort of used a random measurement. This should be 23.5 because the bottom is 1.5 millimeters thick, I think. Yeah, that looks about the same. But what I should do instead is just pick a different value for this wall going down, I think. There's definitely more precise ways to do this. I'm going to undo that coincidence and just bring it up a little bit. Let's say it at like halfway-ish. Say it around there. Aesthetics. All right. Another thing I could do, since we've got these diagonal lines with our hexagon, is sort of disguise the imprecision of this slot here and do a little chamfer. So I'm going to make this, 5 millimeters looks good. And now it's a diamond, and it looks all pretty. Let's make it a smaller chamfer, say 2 millimeters. That looks nice. And it's a little bit lower. So you have two options for doing this kind of thing, chamfer and fillet, and both of those will sort of round off your edges. Chamfer is like a straight thing where you take the corner and extrude it out so that it becomes this nice little flat space instead of a corner, and then a fillet is like a rounded version of that. It rounds off your corners. We can show you what that looks like on this side, actually. So supposing I were to grab these two little sharp corners, which can be a little... I've still got that sketch visible. Go away. Okay, grabbing these little lines in the corners. I could do a fillet. See how nice and round that is? Only in this design, I don't want round. I want all nice little lines. Sort of a low poly effect, so I'm going to do another chamfer instead. Say 2 millimeters again. That looks nice. Maybe 3. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's for the micro USB cable to come through. Then we have a spot for the LiPo battery cable to come through. We're going to mount our little charger on this face. That doesn't really make sense. That's going to be a pain to plug in all the time. Why would I do that? Maybe... What is the best way to do this? I think this is honestly not a great design for this type of thing, because if I were actually using this, I would be bringing the LiPo battery cable through this slot and trying to plug it into something that's mounted on this face, which would never really work. That's no good. Oh, no. Okay. Well, it looks nice, but it's really not very functional. So it goes. But I don't want to start again from scratch, so I'm going to just say that I would go back to the drawing board a little bit with this, maybe play around with that previous design that I made. This one, which has everything mounted on the outside and makes a little bit more sense. So in this case, you know, if we were going to go with this one, I would say, okay, we'll put our LiPo battery wire over here. We're going to make a little rectangle as we did before. And maybe do some chamfering on that again. Gonna ooh, I've just hit my camera. Remove that, say 3 millimeters. Do our little chamfer operation again. It's a little challenging sometimes to select the correct things. There we go. Okay, and we're gonna chamfer those. Say 2 millimeters. Whoop. All right, so now we have a similar idea, except for that we have this slot on the back for the pennies. We have this slot over here for the battery wires to come through. Then we would just mount the charger on this face here. And this is another way of doing the same thing, basically. But I think it's a little less exciting because I kind of like the tilty look of the other one. Am I missing any actual design features here? I don't think so. The last thing that I'll show you is how we would make this look cute, because that's very important. So we've got the slot in the back, we've got this battery wire connector here, and yeah, I wanted the charger to be visible because then I can see with the LEDs what it's doing, if it's already charged or not. The last thing I'm going to do is put a cute little sketch on here and do like a little emoji face because it's fun. Like, howdy. No. What's a cheesy pickup line we could do? No, I'll just do a little happy face. And you can choose from different fonts and stuff. Make it bold. You'll see in this gray box at the top left, you see the how it's going to look in that font. Well, that's kind of cute. This one's kind of better, though. All right, and then you can mirror it in various ways to make it look different. I'm going to go with that. And there we have a little face that we can then extrude to just sort of embed some personality in this thing. Hey, stop selecting. You and you and you. We're going to extrude you back 0.5 millimeters, which is how I emboss stuff. Oh, and it kind of looks like a little sweat drop over there, doesn't it? Little anime face. I could put some little ears on here or whatever. It's very easy. Just on this same sketch to be like, I'm gonna put a little triangle here. And then like mirror it across the center line. It's Saturday night, so I'm getting a little dorky with it. And then we're gonna mirror those things across, and then we could like, hey, come back. Then we could extrude them. 1.5 millimeters. Now I'm gonna use my my shell value here. Add shell. Only, but I'm gonna. Can I make it negative? No. Oh, I can't. But it doesn't like it. It does like it. Cool. No, that is too much anime. Sorry. I don't know that the emoji face on there matches the desired sort of, minimalist, sober aesthetic, especially if I'm going to print this in black PLA or whatever. So if you want to undo that, you can right-click and say suppress, which sort of saves your progress but doesn't show it. So I have suppressed this thing. I can unsuppress it later on if I decide I want it back. And yeah, there's our little, I'm going to leave it on there. Why not? You gotta live a little, have some joy in your life, a little bit of ridiculousness. Um, Especially appropriate on a night like now. It's nearly the new year, folks. How about that? I accidentally removed myself from the stream, but I think we're back now. Uh, what are the requirements for an interview on the Hackster channel? Do cool stuff and share it with us. If you're publishing projects on Hackster, especially, we're likely to take note, especially if you contact us. But yeah, so things that people are interested in seeing, especially projects that are like really nicely fleshed out, nice enclosures and things like that. Something that looks really finished. And often we also just stumble across things around the internet and we're like, oh, that's really cool. So if you're building cool stuff, especially if you publish tutorials about it on Hackster and it catches our eye, you can message us. Try to have it look, yeah, like a finished project that has cool attributes, especially if it's something sort of new that we haven't seen before. Something, in my opinion, there's a few things that I look for, which are things like it looking finished, like I just said 3 times, but also things that bring into question things like AI ethics, things that are really sort of pro humanity. So renewables, sustainability, in my opinion, all those things that we sort of need as a society and as a world right now are things that I want to highlight. And I get to sort of often invite people on for interviews who are doing stuff like that. So yeah, if you're making a difference in the world, if you have a project that helps people use less energy or cope with disabilities or, you know, or recycle better or, promote privacy or sustainability and technology, all those things I think are great foci for projects. And also, we often have contests up at Hackster.io/contests that are around these kinds of themes. So if we go there, we have smart medical designs as a challenge, which is pretty exciting. I think challenging climate change, like these kinds of things, I think are very awesome projects to cover on the channel. And I would love to see more submissions for this one, honestly. There's actually, there's an extension for applications for hardware for this challenge around climate change. So if you have any ideas for a project to help with climate change, not even to completely fix it, because that's not on any of us, I'm not going to put that on you, but if you have something that could help out with any of these areas, like reducing energy consumption, providing early warning of wildfires, improving quality of life for emerging countries, etc., all of these things I think are awesome causes, and you can find, well, not only can you find more contests about them, but you can win prizes and stuff and feel good about yourself while you're doing it. And I would be happy to highlight projects like this for interviews on the channel. So there's no strict criteria for it. It's partly just editorial decisions among our whole team. But yeah, we are lucky to get a lot of cool people on for interviews, and we have more coming up next week. Again, I'm not going to be doing any live stuff next week, but we will have a couple of cool videos going up that we pre-recorded. So with that, I guess I'm off. Have a great rest of your week. I'll be back in the first week of 2021. Knock on wood. And we'll see you soon. Hack on. But don't hack too much, unless you really want to give yourself a break. Yeah.